Hello, I wanted to do a little talk for the Triduum as we prepare our hearts and our minds for this Triduum. It's kind of an interesting time here. We have so much going on in our church and also so little. We come to this empty church and celebrate the Mass, me and the deacons sometimes and some musicians. We celebrate this Mass, and I kind of wanted to start this little talk out with kind of a little tour of maybe if you haven't been to the church a little while to kind of see the weird things that we're doing. And so I'm going to go grab the camera and show that. So what you have been seeing for the most part is just the altar. What you don't see is kind of some of the stuff that goes around with it. We have now this stand where the camera, my phone sits, and also the laptop that we do for other streaming. We also have this speaker underneath the altar that we learned to use to get the sound a little better for both music and everything else, and it points directly at the cameras, and our wonderful cords and stuff that go around. And then for our musicians, they are, if you can also notice that our stands are the nice 6 feet apart, so we can do that. And if you've also been listening sometimes when I'm offering confessions, we've been doing some music, and it's been broadcast. So we have our little portable radio transmitter here with another mixer and the microphone that goes up to the speaker in there that allows for the music to be broadcast both there and then also via Facebook. And then, of course, afterwards, we've been wiping everything down. And it's kind of like I said, an interesting process. So that's just kind of a quick little tour of all of the stuff that we've been doing and how we're actually celebrating this time. So, as you can tell, like I said, we celebrate Mass in an empty church, for the most part, with the exception of a few people. And so tonight, we celebrate the Feast of the Lord's Supper. And it's going to be, like everything else in this time, a little different. Because one of the most compelling things that happens during this Mass, there's a couple of things that really happen, is the washing of the feet, which of course we'll be omitting this year. And it's a reminder of Christ washing the feet of his disciples, but also a command that he gives us to go out and do the same. To go out and wash the feet of the disciples as well. It's kind of one of those interesting things. Most people that I know of don't really like to have their feet washed because it's kind of an awkward feeling. And as a priest, it's humbling because we kneel down, and wash the feet of someone. If you know, sometimes feet are not the cleanest things. They're sometimes smelly, they're stuffed in shoes, or they're in open sandals, and they pick up things on the ground, which is the reason why Jesus washed the feet, and it was very important. He washed the feet of his disciples, and which is why Peter also said, you shouldn't be doing this, because I'm the one who should be doing that. And Jesus reminds him that you need to do that. And so, also, during this time of celebration of the Mass of the Lord's Supper, it is also a time where we stop celebrating the Eucharist for a couple of days. Because after that evening Mass of the Lord's Supper, what happens is we don't celebrate Mass on Good Friday. And so what happens is we also do a procession. Because it's a reminder of the Eucharist that the Last Supper was, that institution of the Eucharist. It's a reminder of that sacrifice of Christ as well, and giving of his body and blood. And so after, at the very end of the Mass, we then usually do a procession. Usually do a procession all around the church with the Blessed Sacrament in hand, singing a hymn of adoration. And then the tabernacle is empty. And so it's kind of, I always find it interesting is when we as Catholics sometimes follow the habit of just genuflecting, right? Genuflecting to the front of the church. But it's always the Blessed Sacrament in the tabernacle we genuflect to. So usually on Good Friday, we don't need to genuflect because Jesus isn't home in the tabernacle. He is somewhere else. And so we don't need to genuflect then until, of course, Easter Vigil again, when the tabernacle has the Blessed Sacrament back in it. It's a very stark reminder of that adoration that we're called to do to Christ, to be that person of faith. And so then, another interesting thing that happens, or normally that doesn't happen, is there's no dismissal in this Mass or the Feast of the Lord, the Good Friday service that we do. There's no beginning or dismissal in that one. But we don't dismiss because, in a way, it is one real Mass. Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter. As we kind of think about this tonight, we're reminded of what sacrifice Christ is offering for us. And even though we won't be able to physically receive him in that way, we can continue to be those people who receive him in prayer. Then tomorrow, it's going to be kind of different because we're celebrating the supper, the Good Friday service at 3 o'clock, which is actually the recommended time for it. But since most people work on Fridays, most churches continue to celebrate it in the evening. This year we're going to celebrate it at the traditional 3 o'clock. It's that reminder of the veneration of the cross. And one of the things as we prepare for that, would recommend when you have your family together to be a part of that on video, on screen, is to have a cross there that you too can venerate. That you can offer a little offering of that sacrifice, that instrument of torture that Christ himself had allowed himself to be a part of. And then we'll celebrate the 2 different Easter services, the Easter Vigil, which is my favorite Mass of the year. It's long, it's dark, but it's starting off in there, and we're not going to be able to celebrate it in that way this year. We won't be doing the Easter fire, we won't be doing some of the other stuff, and of course there won't be any baptisms or confirmations this year until later, but it's still a reminder of the joy of the resurrection. So, coming together on this great week, I want to offer another reflection. A priest's perspective on celebrating Mass to an empty church. It's kind of one of those saddening things because we don't have that opportunity to offer what we're called to be that person who gives Christ to people, to everyone that comes to him, to receive that body and blood. And it's kind of interesting, someone has asked me, so Father, what are you doing with all your free time right now? And I jokingly say, well, there's still a lot of stuff going on. And even though I'm only celebrating 1 weekend Mass instead of the 4, it's not necessarily good. Good for me, because why? Because I want to be the person, that priest, who offers communion to others. Which is why we still have those 4 Masses together, because we need them for the people to be able to receive Jesus. And it's one of those sad things that I have. We still have been blessed to offer the sacrament of confession and reconciliation in just a little different way, as well as being able the person to offer the Mass in a different way. So as we think about these upcoming weeks, where we're going to be transitioning through this great Triduum to Easter, and even to that Easter season, let us be those people who don't lose hope, who don't lose faith, but to draw close to Jesus each and every day. Sometimes it may be via video, sometimes it may be in other ways, of just being able to spend that time with God. So as we prepare our hearts and our minds for this, the most blessed season or blessed part of the year, let's be those people who follow Christ each and every day.